All right, all right. Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for the Cyber Incision live stream. We are super excited to have you guys. My name is Joel Bork. I will be your co-host today, and with me is my co-host, the very handsome and senior account representative, Brandon Krieger. How are you today, buddy?
Good, Joel. How's your day going so far?
It's going, man. It's been nonstop since first thing this morning. How about yours?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I think, and hands up for everyone that's in the industry right now. I think right now it's a busy time for everyone that's in cybersecurity.
Yeah. And it was interesting because I was even talking to somebody today and they're like, man, I am 10, 12-hour days. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I said that too. And it's like, it's just everybody right now.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's attached to these computers and they can't get off them. So awesome. Well, I'm excited for today's episode because A, we got some great content for you guys. And B, we got a really cool guest appearance who's going to be hopping on here shortly with us. This gentleman just took his CISSP exam for the very first time, and we're excited to hear his experience. So we'll be bringing him on shortly. It'll also be the first time I've actually spoken to him over a video conference. So I'm pumped for that.
So actually, we're getting some feedback right now. There's no sound on YouTube.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I mean, is everyone else give us a thumbs up if you can hear us okay on LinkedIn, on Twitch, and then I guess YouTube might be having some problems. I can check out that and just see.
Yeah, maybe poke the restream folks. Let me double check LinkedIn. I haven't even checked them real quick.
Sound on YouTube.
Yep, we got audio on YouTube, so looks like we got a thumbs up. But yeah, give us a clap, give us a thumbs up if you guys are out there. Say hi. I'd love to bring your name into this real quick. So please, please, please. Thank you for participating. Looks like we got right here. Sean says LinkedIn is working, so we are up and running. Thank you, Sean, for that confirmation.
YouTube is up, just to let you know, Salome, if you're watching on YouTube. For some reason, I just went to LinkedIn and went to Twitch, and I was able to hear the audio.
Awesome. Cool. So maybe try unmuting it. I know I have to do that every time I log into YouTube or LinkedIn anyways. I got to hit the unmute button. So looks like Emmanuel's here as well. Welcome back, buddy. We're excited to have you. So let's go ahead and jump right in. You ready, Brandon?
Oh, I'm ready.
So we're going to jump right into question time. Vivek, I got you here in the chat in Restream. So feel free to answer these questions still. You're watching the show. So I'll bring you up yours if you're getting them right. But please, guys, let's answer these. Here we go. Let me go ahead and share my screen and rock and roll. So question number 1. Here we go.
Hold on a second. Let's make sure it's on the screen, Joel. I'm going to catch you on that one.
That's a good point. I should probably activate that. Thank you. Oh, goodness. Good times. All right. Question number 1. What is the main purpose of a corporate security policy?
Okay, so A, transfer the responsibility for the information security to all users of the organization. B, to communicate management's intention in regards to information security. C, to provide detailed steps by performing special actions. Or D, to provide common framework to all development activities.
Well, it's not that one.
So yeah, so it's not D. So what is the main purpose of corporate security policy? To transfer the responsibility to information security to all users of the organization? No, because you're not going to do that. You're going to take it as a holistic approach. All right. C, let's look at A. To communicate management's intention regarding information security. I would lead to B, and then to C, to provide detailed steps to performing specific actions. Well, no, it's not specific actions. It's a whole holistic view. So for me, I would go with B. And then we look like we got Sean, Vivek. These guys are all going with B. So good job.
Well done. Well done. You guys are absolutely right. It's about management, communicating their intentions about the InfoSec posture of the organization. So excellent job. Question number 2. Yep, we got a bunch of guys online. I got to say hi real quick. You guys give us some claps and thumbs up. Please, if you're just logging in, throw us some little emoji cons at the bottom. It lets us see your name. Vivek is multitasking right now. Well done getting that right. We have Christine. Welcome back. Emmanuel, Sean. Let's go ahead and keep rocking. Let's see who gets this one first. Which of the following is from the Internet Architecture Board of Ethics and the Internet? A, access to and use of the Internet is a privilege and should be treated as such by all users of the systems. B, users should execute responsibilities in a manner consistent with the highest standards of their profession. C, there must not be personal data record-keeping systems whose very existence is secret. That's weird. And D, there must be a way for a person to prevent information about them which was obtained for one purpose from being used or made available for another. Well, Facebook made that one go down the drain pretty quick.
True.
So you got to go A or B, Brandon. Ready, go.
So yeah, well, we're gonna narrow this down. You can kind of see how D and C doesn't work. Then you got, like, let's go with B first. You should execute responsibility in a manner of consistent with the highest standard of their profession. Well, how do you know that? How can you rank that in, like, the actual standard? All right, so then I'm going to lead to A. Access to and use of the internet is a privilege and should be treated as such by all users of the system. And I think it's A.
Boom. Well done, my friend. Great job. And did you memorize the IAB Ethics and Internet RFC?
Did I memorize it? No. I'm just, and this is the thing. I'm going by process of elimination and what I think. I mean, like Joel said, it was A or B, right? And I think, when you're going through that, when you're going through A and B and you're looking at that, users should execute responsibly in the manner constant with the highest standard of their profession. Well, how do you rank that? How do you know how that is, right? What if I'm, a secretary? Do I have a certain standard for internet? No, I don't think that would relate. So I think it's A, access to, use the internet is a privilege, right? And then they should have it treated as such by all users of the system. So it doesn't matter who it is.
Now, I'm already giving them a sneak peek to the next question. So you guys had a few seconds, but I love the deductive reasoning. It's literally perfect for this exam. Question 63. Out of the steps listed below, which one is not one of the steps conducted during the BIA, or the Business Impact Analysis? A, alternate site selection. B, create data gathering techniques. C, identify the company's critical business functions. Or D, select individuals to interview for data gathering.
So here's the thing. Which one is not one of the steps? That's kind of make sure we always kind of get caught in those, not questions, right? So which one is not? So you got A, alternative site selection. B, create data gathering techniques. C, identify the company's critical business functions. D, select individuals to interview for data gathering. So yes, of course, you're doing business impact analysis. You're going to gather data, right? You're going to do interviews. C, you're going to identify the company's critical business functions. Of course you are. B, create data gathering techniques. For sure, it's business impact, right? You want to make sure that you're going to be able to recover. Alternate site selection. I don't think so. I don't think that's something that we're going to do. It's already going to be, something that's already selected. So I think A, alternative site selection, is going to be the thing that you're not going to do.
Boom. So we got to walk through. Vivek is killing me over here. So he said C. He goes, oh, just kidding. Got excited. I misread. Then he threw out A, and then he said D, damn it. So yeah, you should have stuck with your second answer on that one, my friend. Well,
so that's what happens when you keep guessing and just throwing it. Like, and this is what we're doing. This is why I'm walking through this, and Joel and I are doing this. Selective reasoning, right? Try to narrow it down to at least the top two that you do it, and then deductive reasoning is kind of going, you know what? I think it's this because the rest are this process or this strategy.
That's it. Now let's jump into this one real quick. This one should be a breeze. In the CIA triad, what does the letter A stand for?
Okay, we don't. Tell me, guys, you all got this.
Yeah.
I mean, the CIA triad, something you guys should be living, breathing, and sleeping right now. That someone goes CIA and you're like, this is what it is. If you're not saying, Vivek's already got it.
Integrity. And Vivek said availability. Boom. C. Yep. So let's just keep rocking and rolling, because guys, if you guys get this one wrong, start back at
first video.
Episode 1. Yep. All right. Last one for the night. Controls are implemented to A, eliminate and reduce the potential for loss. B, mitigate risk and eliminate the potential for loss. Or C, mitigate risk and reduce the potential for loss. Are they all the same?
Or no. D, eliminate risk. No, you got two, eliminate, two,
mitigate.
mitigate.
Or eliminate risk and eliminate. Or mitigate risk and reduce. Mitigate risk and eliminate.
So here's the catch, and you guys are looking at this. Can you eliminate risk? Right? Can you eliminate it? So you're looking at, no, I can't. You can't eliminate. Right? You're going to try to reduce. So that takes out A, that takes out C, and takes out D. Right? Because you're not going to eliminate. So, it takes out A, B, and then D. So the only one that it can be is mitigating risk and reduce the potential for loss. Because our job as security professionals is to detect, respond, and remediate. That's it. You're not going to actually be able to eliminate threats, right? You're always defending against it. So, like you guys are reading on there, anytime they're saying eliminate it, That's not possible.
Yeah, and everybody got that one right. I was like all looking at them like, what the heck are they talking about? I don't even know what's happening. So
That's why you had me, Joe.
thank you, Brandon. I appreciate you. All right, guys. So moving away from questions, we get to bring on our very special guest this evening. This gentleman has been with us for weeks. He basically jumped on the opportunity to take this exam, and he's going to share with us some of his experiences here today. So everybody, please give it up. Put some claps and thumbs up together for your very own Mr. Vivek. Welcome, buddy. How are you?
Hey, how's it going? I'm glad to be here finally.
Glad to
meet.
I'm excited to meet you in person.
And and you know what? It's interesting you said this is an experience. CISSP is an experience. It's not. It wasn't about pass or fail for me. Looking back.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is most people aren't passing, right? The first time around. They're not.
No.
Right.
So here's the thing. It's about the experience, right? And you went in and you took it and you learned from it. You're going to be more confident, more ready going in second time around. And hey, this is about the end result of your journey. All the stuff in between, that's just to get you there, right?
Exactly.
Cool. So
you could not have said it better. Huh?
Yeah, well, we wanted to talk to you about three things here today, Vivek. We wanted to talk to you about how was your time management on the exam? Like going in, were you prepared at the end? Did you have time to review the questions? And what was kind of your technique as you went through it?
Oh, I noticed the latency in the video, but that's fine. No. So you're saying time management during the exam? Oh, there was no rush for time. I had plenty of time. Ironically, the first few questions started off on an easy note. Well, that was my experience, of course. Or I thought it was easy. And yeah, so I had plenty of time there was no rush. So by the time I finished and I went on, so inside out, I went to 150 questions, which I thought, according to what the CAT format of the exam says, it's a good thing in many ways. It could be a bad thing. So getting to 150, I think was a great experience for me. And so, yeah, I had more than 10 minutes to spare. Looking back.
Okay.
So I was able to think on plenty of questions for more than a minute, more than 2 minutes if I wanted to. On some of the tough ones.
So I want to ask you a question. So you're looking at time management here. You're going through that.
Yep.
Did you find that you felt you had to go back and review the questions? Like you're like, I have to go back. I did 1, 2, and 3. Let me go back to 1.
So the big secret give out. Well, it's not a secret. There was no such. You can't do that, and that was interesting. There was no flagging, or you cannot go back to a previous question.
So once you answer it, you're done.
You're done. Yep.
So okay, perfect.
But
So now,
no, indeed.
Going back through it now, because I know you were sending Joel and myself some questions and kind of responses. Right. What did you find that was your gap? So you did the test, you're coming back, you're sitting back down, and you're kind of going, I wish I would have studied or reviewed this more.
You know what? To be very honest, and looking back, I could have done a little more studying, but that's it. I felt like a lot of the questions were very similar to those judgmental, very black and white questions. Like it wasn't so much about, what protocol or what, let me give you an example, right? And I was to shoot straight out the window, just like the one we just went through a couple of seconds ago with the eliminate risk or mitigate risk. Mm-hmm. Those catchy words, they like to play with the words. And so if you're not, you could have picked up A, B, or C, but if you didn't look at the words right, you would have messed it up. So it was so much of that. It was not so much that we didn't know. It was just like, those very tricky questions. I had one more, for example, about baseline, right? This is a very interesting question. Very indirect question about baseline. It wasn't about which of these is a baseline, but it was more like, all right, what standards are we using? Are we going off the user experience for baseline, or are we going off the industry best standards, or are we going by best practices?
Okay.
So there was an indirect question based on that, based on the definition of baseline. And it was based on screensaver timeouts, So for example, and
we were going back and forth about this for a minute.
Yeah. So it wasn't like, okay, what is a baseline or define a baseline? No, it was more, judgmental on the spot. Yep. It was really judgmental on the spot.
So first of all, you got some claps from Salome. She says awesome. And then Sean says that's good to know. Take your time, read the questions carefully, right?
And here's the thing for you guys, and this is why we're doing the practice ones and kind of walking you through the methodology of how to take it, is because what you guys are saying, and this is great, Vivek is saying that, you got to take your time, read the questions, and look at the not questions and the ones that are very similar. And as you just saw the last one with the eliminate. Well, all of us know in cybersecurity, you can't eliminate risk, but Joel, you saw, kind of got caught with that. Well, like, there's trouble, and then what's going on here, right? So take your time as you go through this. You guys got this as you're studying, but that's a good point, Vivek. Great point.
Now, Vivek, will you walk us through this real quick? So I pulled this up, right? We talked about a few of the things you're like, was it right? Was it not? So here we go. Types of network topology.
Exactly.
Right? So this is always when you get on the question, you're like, oh my gosh, like which one was it, right? You're trying to pull a picture in your head, right? So let's start on the left. Hybrid topology, it's a mix, it's a jumble.
Correct.
Tree topology, literally think of it like a tree, right? Like your Christmas tree.
Exactly.
Now, it was interesting because I read your question when you're like, what was it?
Yeah.
And the answer was star topology. You were right. I've always learned star topology, the name was hub and spoke. Has anybody else heard that?
I've heard that as well.
So you got me. And then you have ring, and then your bus topology is connected along that line and interconnected that way along with your mesh. So,
and here again, just like you said, the question was kind of indirect. It was like, okay, you have, what kind of topology would be when you have phones, which is so, you have regular phones connected to a central exchange. All the phones are connected to a central single switch exchange.
Was bus.
So if you connect the dots, it will be bus, I think. Or is it? I'm thinking star. Yeah.
I would say star.
Because putting two and two together at the time, it wasn't a knowledge like, okay, what is this? I mean, like I said, it wasn't a definition, hardline, knowledge-based question, like where it's quote from memory, if you will. It was more like on that day, how do you apply your judgment? So yeah, if you have a central switch exchange and you have all those phones connected to that one central, I'm thinking star technology. No book can give you that answer. No book. You know what I mean?
Right. So that Salome's got it though. She said star topology when devices connected to Twitch.
Salome always gets it.
She does. She's on it. Cool. And I got one more for you real quick. So
go ahead.
Next one for you. And I know I'm springing these on you.
Sure.
But let me get this pulled up. Okay. So this is.
I'm enjoying this.
What does CPTED stand for?
Oh, I know. That was way before the exam. I kept bugging you on that term, right? CED. Yep. Yeah. Oh no, actually, there was a question related to that, by the way. And again, an indirect question. Well,
hold on. So for everybody watching,
go ahead.
It's crime prevention through environmental design.
Exactly.
CPTED. And so what it's talking about. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to.
I was just going to say it's all about security through design, right? So we're talking about keeping your hedges low, having big windows so you can see the street, keeping lights right in front. So hit me, Vivek. Give me an idea of the question. Let's walk.
Great. And I'm glad you said that about the windows and looking at the view. So like you said, so environmental design where you make it up. Well, you don't make it. Well, excuse me. You make it obvious to the wannabe intruder that, hey, you know what? We're watching. We're not obscure, right?
Right.
And so the question was about a retail store. And I knew there was only two answers that were the best guess or best options. It says, what was the best design for that retail store so it can be inviting, for one, inviting retail store. Well, duh, you want every retail store to be inviting.
Right.
So one that was a funny answer, right? Have a lot of privacy bushes and shrubs. I was like, there's no way that can be the case. Nope. And another one was have a high fence. You don't want that for inviting store. So the other two was multiple exit points or egress points, I guess, multiple with a camera watching over you, right? And then the last one was a plexiglass windows staring at the streets and sidewalks. Parking lots and sidewalks.
That's it, right?
I'm thinking that's it because guess what? If you have multiple egress points, in my mind, that means there's so many opportunities for that wannabe intruder to escape and run away, right?
You got it.
Or be described by camera.
More to monitor. Can't handle it.
What do you say? I mean, so it was dicey, but I know for a fact that glass windows to the looking at the streets and sidewalks is a thing from CPED, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So then again, it's not a book answer. It's more like judgmental,
Spot on. So Vivek, real quick, because we got to
summary. Go ahead.
But what are your plans for study before you take this exam again?
I'm glad you asked, because it's sort of ironic. I felt like I felt like it wasn't so much a lack of knowledge; it was more of lack of application at the time. I wish I could change my answers looking back. It's one of those. Oh, I wish I could that.
Yep.
It wasn't so much like, oh, I did not know this cold turkey. I have no idea what this question is talking about. Let me take chicken on the menu because it's not turkey for today. No, it wasn't that way. It was, oh my goodness, I put the wrong, picked the wrong choice looking back, right? And it's one of those where 2 minutes later you're thinking, oh, I wish I could go back. But guess what? No, my studying is going to, I've been looking at CISSP. I've been studying for it for a long time. I mean, no excuses. Well, not so much in a formal manner. I've been looking at a lot of resources online, reading a lot of notes online, taking up these pop quizzes from every nook and cranny on the websites. So yeah, I've been churning a lot of study material, and of course my experience already. It's in cyber, so I felt like I could have done it looking back.
And we hear this time and time again, right? You have to put the right hat on when you go to take the exam.
Exactly.
So you have to be looking at it through the right lens. So Vivek, thank you so much for hopping on and sharing your experience with us today.
Awesome.
You know what? To sum it up, thank you so much for having me here. By the way, it's been it's more than an honor and privilege. But it's almost like you're going into bat in a baseball game, and you don't have the right bat. You have the knowledge, but you don't have the right bat. So if you swing and hit, you're not going to get anything. I'm like,
Okay. So how do you bring that back to this show? Like, how are we giving you a bat? I don't know how to.
Are you going to give me
I'll work on that one. Vivek, it was such a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, I'll be in the chat.
To getting you more. See you, buddy.
Yeah.
All right. Very cool. I love that. So everybody give it up for Vivek real quick. Throw some claps in here. Just the experience alone, right, that he's providing. Just saying you got to wear the right hat, right? Take your time. You can't go back. Read through it. Use the process of elimination. That's exactly what I needed to hear. How about you?
Yeah, and I think that's a good, all his recommendations, right? And what he's talking about, it's stuff that we want to do as you guys are doing is practice taking the test, right? Put yourself in different scenarios and kind of work through it. Because like Vivek was saying, you just want to be able to make sure he brought up and Sean, reiterated, is that read the questions, read the answers, take your time, make sure that you're not getting caught up in the grammar and the technical words and things like that. Second all, just kind of think it through, take your time. And then he was talking about that, logical security. And one thing I didn't mention is, don't forget there's also a physical aspect of this, right? The physical security. We're talking a lot of the technical going through it, but there's also the physical aspect of it that they're going to test against potentially, which they're talking with, Vivek's bringing up. So make sure you kind of cover it all. You're really prepared. Vivek did an awesome job, and I'm excited to see, when he takes the next time, hear about him passing and kind of going on to being a CISSP.
That's it. Well, hey guys, also, if you come across something and you're like, what? I haven't seen this, heard of it, read about it, CPTED, what the heck does that stand for? Whatever it is, guys, shoot us a message on LinkedIn. Let us bring it up in the next one so that everybody's aware of the content that's in existence in the question bank.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the good thing, Joel, is we're here to help you guys out. So we'll bring it up, we'll brainstorm it and workshop it with you guys. Right? And then we're trying to get you and ourselves prepared to write the CISSP, and then also be effective as you go out and do it. This is not just us coming out and just brainstorming and dumping it. We want you to actually be able to apply it. Yeah.
So you know what? We got some great comments. We got some claps from Salome. Thank yous from a number of people. And then Emmanuel said, I totally approve of what Vivek said. I had the same experience last year when I took the exam and didn't pass, right? But hey, you know what? Enjoy your journey. Pass, fail, enjoy the journey, learn from it, become a better cybersecurity professional. That's what this is all about. You ready to jump into the content, Brandon? We got a lot to cover.
Let's do it.
Cool. So we're going to jump right in. We're going to jump into protection mechanisms. Now, we talked a little bit about this when we talked about trusted computing modules, so TPMs, and its protection rings. And we're going to jump right in again because because it's in the book and they repeat it, and that's okay. So let's go ahead and jump right in real fast. Let me get this picture pulled up. But when we're talking about security rings, we're talking about providing a security mechanism for an operating system, right? By creating boundaries between the various processes operating on a system to ensure that processes don't affect each other or harm critical components. So let me go ahead and pull this up real quick.
Yep.
And we'll share this with the crew so everybody sees it. Perfect. So security rings, you may have seen something like it because we've shown something like it in the past, right? But the rings, what you have is the red ring in the middle. That's your kernel. That's ring 0. Then you have device drivers are going to be ring 1 and 2. And then ring 3 is going to be your applications, right? So those are the things running in user mode, right? Is basically where that happens. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the Windows protection ring. So this is a little different. When it comes to the Windows protection ring, you're going to notice something a little different, Brandon. And let me see if you can catch it here in 2 seconds. Take a peek at this one. How does this one vary? I know it may be a little small. Let me see if I can blow that up for you.
Yeah, so you got the kernel ring. You got the ring 1 is not used, right? And then ring 2 not used. Ring 3 is used. So ring 1 and 2 is not used.
Yeah, so the way they refer to it is basically you have ring 0 and ring 2. Right? And they basically merge ring 1 and 2 into not being used. So they don't even use it. So you basically have privileged mode or kernel mode, and then you have user land. That's it. Mm-hmm. Right? So you have your drivers, you have everything running in ring 0, and then you have all your applications, your DLLs, everything running in user mode. Right. So those are your rings of protection. So sometimes those inner rings aren't used. Sometimes they are slightly used for drivers, etc. But yeah, so that's kind of the Windows edition of that. Security protection rings.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Awesome. So let me take a peek real quick at what we have coming up next. I know I want to rip through this, but Brandon, will you kick us off on process states and I'll pull up the next one?
Sure. Also known as operating states, process states are various forms of execution in which a process may run. Where the operating system is concerned, it can be in one or two modes or at any given moment. Operating in a privilege, all access mode known as supervision or supervisor state, or operating in what is called the problem state associated with the user mode, where privileges are low and all access requests must be checked against credentials for authorization before they are granted or denied.
All right, that was a loaded statement. So remember, when we're talking about process states, we're talking about operating states that the process can run in. Right? So we're talking about supervisor states, or we're talking about problem states, but here are a number of the states, right? Or the steps that it can take. So let's go ahead and take a peek at this real quick. So these are the different process states. You can have a new or create, and in this step, the process is about to be created, but it's not created yet, right? So it is the program which is present in secondary memory that will soon be picked up by the OS to create the process and drop it into primary memory. And we're going to talk about, I believe we talked about primary memory this week, right, Brandon?
I think so, yeah.
Cool. Primary memory, quick snapshot, that is your RAM or your volatile memory. Secondary memory is going to be your hard drive or your SSD, or there's other forms as well, which you'll see later. The next one is ready, right? So it's new, it's a new process, and it's ready to run, right? So after your creation process, it's going to enter ready state. Process is going to be loaded into main memory. The process is here, ready to run, and it's waiting to get CPU time. So it's ready, hasn't gotten CPU time yet for execution. And then the next state is run. This is when it's picked up by CPU. Either the CPU becomes available or that process is next in line. It gets picked up for execution with the instructions, and it's executed by one of the available cores that we talked about last week or the week before, right, Brandon?
I think it was the week before.
Cool. Next is blocked or wait stage. This is whenever the process requests access to I/O or needs input from the user or needs access to critical region, the lock for which is already acquired. It enters a blocked or wait state, right? So a lot of applications will require, let me think of something, CAPTCHA, right?
Okay.
You know those I'm not a robot buttons you got to click all the time? More or less, that's basically what happens to a process. It's in a wait state. It's waiting for a user input to then continue the process. Then you have terminated and completed. The process is killed. And then you have suspend ready. So process that was initially in the ready state, but was swapped out of main memory and placed onto external storage by a scheduler. So this is an interesting one. So let's say it's in the ready state, but it's swapped out and it's actually written to memory. So then it can be recalled later into volatile memory when it's needed.
Nice.
And then last but not least, virtual memory. No, so we're talking about just processes on a device. So it could be virtual memory. It could be a process on a virtual machine. But we're talking about primary and secondary memory on a device, on a physical device right now. So this is going to make more sense here shortly, but those are basically your process states. And it makes sense, right? When you pull up your computer process list, you can see all those processes running. Those are in run state, right? They're being executed. They have dedicated RAM resources to them. What you don't see are the processes that are in ready state, in terminated state, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on in the background that isn't even completely visible to the end user.
For sure. That totally makes sense.
All right. Sorry, I was trying to rip through all. That was a lot of. You should have seen how many paragraphs in the book. How many paragraphs do you think that was, Brandon?
4? Yeah, 4 or 5.
That's after we trimmed it down.
Yeah.
Right. So we really trimmed that down. All right. So let's get down. We're now in security modes. So this is DoD related security modes. Do you want to talk about that and how it applies to systems, Brandon?
Give me a second here. Yep. The U.S. government has designated 4 approved security modes for security that process classified information. We reviewed the classified systems used by the federal government and the concepts of security clearance and access approval. The only new term in the context is need to know, which refers to an access authorized scheme in which a subject right to access an object takes into consideration not just a privilege level, but also the relevance of data involved in the role the subject plays or the job they perform.
Man, I keep giving you these massive paragraphs, Brandon. I apologize.
I'm learning to read online.
Yep. So Vivek also said, by the way, he said administrative control, you need to know it. Yeah, that's a great point. So when you talk about administrative control, we'll dig into it here in a bit. But basically, this indicates that a subject requires access to the object to perform their job properly or to fill their job role, right? So those with no need to know may not access objects no matter what level of privilege they hold. So if you need a refresher on these concepts, we're going to jump into a couple real quick. So you have a MAC environment or mandatory access control. Then you have physical control over subjects that can access the computer console. And then you have total physical control over which subjects can enter into the same room as the computer console. Now, let's talk. It's much easier when we just show a graphic and we show it.
Do you have one?
Yeah, let me go ahead and pop this up. Because I promise you, once you see these security modes, you're like, oh, that makes sense. So let's go ahead and throw this up real quick. And I know it's text heavy, but let's walk through these one at a time real quick. So remember, these are for DoD. This is for government systems. They have dedicated systems, right? Or it's a dedicated security mode. So this is a need to know for all information stored and processed. Every user requires formal access approvals and to have executed all appropriate non-disclosure agreements for the information stored and or processed. This level must also support enforced system access procedures. All hard copy input, media removed, will be handled at the same level for which the system is accredited. So all users can access the data. So basically dedicated means every single individual has to be approved for that system, and any media that comes out of that system, they're going to be at that same level, right? So it's dedicated. If you haven't gone through those checks, NDAs, clearance processes, you cannot gain access to those resources. Next is system high. And this is a need to know for some of the information contained on a system. Every user requires access approval to have and sign the NDAs for all the information stored. Access permission to an object by users not already possessing access permission must only be assigned by authorized users of the object. So I think that's an important piece right there. So access permission to an object by users not already in permission must only be assigned by authorized users of that object. So somebody has to assign you, kind of like a Google Drive doc, right? You have to share it with that specific individual who also holds the right clearances. So that's system high. Then you have compartmented, and this is valid need to know for some info on the system. Every user has to have the same approvals for all information they'll access and the proper clearances. NDAs, but here's the key. All users can access some data based on their need to know and formal access approval. So this is just some, right? So it's not the entire device. And then last but not least, you have multi-level. So every user has a valid need to know for the information which he or she has access to. They have formal access approval. All users can access some data based on their need to know, clearance, and formal access approval. So really multi-level, right? Similar to what we saw in our previous security modes.
And then Vivek's asking, is that DAC?
Is that DAC? Yeah, discretionary access control, right? So, okay, so real quick, let's go through this real quick. Mandatory access control, Brandon, are you able to describe that real quick?
Where are we right now? Give me a second here.
So you're good. Let me walk through the differences real quick. So here we go. So we have discretionary access control is like, I'm able to make that decision, right? That's very user-based decision making. Mm-hmm. Mandatory access control is where the operating system is going to provide the user with access, right? So it's a NACL, right? A network access control list or something of the sort, but the computer dictates the permissions you have. If it's discretionary, I can hop on and click on your user profile and check a few boxes, hit submit, and boom, your permissions have been changed. So discretionary versus mandatory.
Nice. Okay.
All right. Is there any questions on that? I know. So Sean said just because you have, exactly, right? Just because you have it still means you need to get approved by a certain individual.
Right.
And then Vivek said system high. Vivek, you're not distracting at all. We want to clarify if it's available, but hit me with a question and we'll see what we can do to answer that for you. All right. So those are the security modes the U.S. government has designated for systems that process classified info. Mm-hmm. Those are the security modes. Next up is, let me get you that. I think this graphic will help as well. Oh, that's memory. Here we go. Here's the table that's going to help you. And hopefully this helps clarify things for you, Vivek. Here we go. All right. So the question was, for compartmented access, just because you have a clearance does not mean you will have access. Totally. So let's dig into compartmented. So if you look at the top bar, you're going to have dedicated, system high, compartmented, and multi-level. So let's take a peek at compartmented. Signed NDA? Absolutely. Clearance? Absolutely. Approval? Some of it, right? So just because you have the clearance in the NDA, just like Sean said, it doesn't mean you're going to have access to it. And need to know, you're also going to need some need to know. Mm-hmm. Multi-level is even less so, right? So dedicated, all of those things apply. You get access to all of everything on the system. System high, you still need a need to know. Compartmented, you're going to need the need to know and approval. And then multi-level, you need the clearance as well. Did I say that right, Sean? Vivek? Make sure I said that right.
Yeah, it makes sense. And it's progressive, right? The dedicated, system high, compartmental, and multi-level. Mm-hmm. Right? Because, I mean, look at dedicated. I mean, you see how you have all access, right? Signed NDA. Well, you have restricted. Signed NDA, clearance, approval, and need to know. You have to have all. Yep. Right? And then you be progressive and you like multi-level. You just need a signed NDA. Then it has some. Right?
Yep. Spot on. So I think it's funny because you can throw all this text up and you can read all the way through it. But finding a graphic like this that just shows, like, this makes way more sense to me. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you.
It does.
And that's why we dig for these, and make sure we can present them here in the course.
Right, and Vivek's saying that dedicated would be upper management.
So remember, these are systems that process information. I would say even upper management may not have a need to know, right? So it depends on the info that's on the system, right? These are all for different levels of classified information.
So let's walk that through just quickly. So what would be one area where a department would only have that access? Are we talking like CFO and financial?
Which access?
So, for example, one executive wouldn't have access and another executive would. What data would we be talking about? What controls?
So let's talk about top secret, right?
Yep.
Let's say you have multi-level. So everybody needs to, that is interesting. Yeah, he's like, got you.
See, I would put in the context of this, right? There's some things like, financial information that the HR person may not need to know, right? So they might not have access to certain data that is proprietary to the financial information where the HR has other information that the CFO doesn't need to have access to, right?
Right.
And then Sean's saying military information.
Yeah, so you're talking CFO, but I'm talking more like think more top secret missions, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I'm just using that as a kind of a real world example. But
right.
You're right. I mean, if you're putting this into, DoD or any type of a model like that, you can even look at project based. If someone's coming up with quantum encryption, some people might have access to the quantum encryption in the code and what's going on, and then some people might have not. Right.
Yeah. So that's so. In the DoD space, yes, they deal with quantum encryption, but you have to realize there's levels to this, such as signed NDA, which means do not disclose. Then you have the clearance, then you have the approval, and then the need to know is really even on the same project, right? We could both be working a top secret quantum encryption project.
Got you in a tongue twister.
I know, but you don't want one individual to have all of access to all that data, because what if I downloaded it or exfilled it and boom, you're done, right? You want to compartmentalize that so only certain individuals have the right need to know for the pieces of the project they're working on, and then it's all brought together in a finalized product. But you don't want everybody to have access to all of that. You don't want your quantum encryption algorithm or your top secret data to be dedicated so everybody has access to everything if they have the right NDA and clearance, right?
Right. But so then that would probably be classified as compartmented, right? Right.
Or,
so go ahead.
Yeah.
Because I'd have a certain access to the code or a certain area, and that's only access I would have, and then you would have a certain access, and we wouldn't cross over our access.
Yep.
Right.
Spot on. No, Sean, did we clarify that? Did we do okay there? Let us know. We do have to move on. I know we're running a little short on time, but let us know if we came to the right conclusion, and part of that's thanks to you. So we appreciate you. All right. So those are the security modes. We jumped through those. Let's go ahead and touch on. All right. We're back to primary versus secondary storage. So let's talk about some of this real quick. And I think I'm going to jump around just a little bit. But let me spin up this graphic for you guys on primary and secondary storage. Mm-hmm. Now, most of this is going to be review, right? This isn't rocket science. This is talking about stuff you guys are already very familiar with. So when we're talking about primary memory, it's memory that remains directly connected to the CPU. It's also volatile memory. It's temporary memory. It's directly controlled by the microprocessor. So we're talking about RAM here, right? We're talking about sticks of RAM. It keeps data and instructions temporarily only at execution time, right? And if it's not, it'll put it in that suspend state, and it'll write it back to secondary memory and then pull it back when it needs it. And its manufacturer cost is very high. So if you're looking for RAM, it's going to cost you a few $100. Whereas you look at an SSD these days, and you can get them for under $100 for what, a terabyte almost?
I think so.
Terabytes?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I mean, do you remember what an SSD would cost you 5 years ago?
Oh my God, it was
hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
Unreal. All right, and then secondary memory. This is your non-volatile, right? So give me a couple examples, Brandon.
So, I mean, you're looking at secondary memory doesn't remain directly connected with your CPU. It is not non-volatile memory. Second memory is non-volatile. Second memory is controlled by users. It keeps data from any specific long-term coding. Secondary memory is slower than primary memory, and its manufacturer cost is lower than primary. So you're talking about hard drives, is correct?
Yep, talking about hard drives, and here's the quick graphic for volatile memory, because that's what's next. So we're going to rip through some of this stuff, guys. Sean said also could be Congress. So when we were talking about those, like compartmentalized, right? So spot on. So here in the States, Brandon, Congress has certain, what are they called? Committees, I think they're called. Mm-hmm. So like certain senators will be on certain committees, and they have a need to know for certain information in those committees, right? Those aren't what they discuss in those is not publicly available to people.
Right. Makes sense.
Cool. So here's the next graphic.
Us Canadians are taught about American politics.
As you should.
Just an FYI.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure our media shoves it down your throat, but that's a conversation for another day. Oh, good stuff.
Go Biden.
So this is memory versus storage. We got RAM is directly connected to the CPU. The CPU can direct that towards the hard drive, and you can see the RAM is pulling from the hard drive as well. So your RAM is volatile, fast access. And what does RAM stand for? Do you know, Brandon?
Now you caught me. Read access memory, isn't it?
Yeah. Random access memory.
Is it? Yeah.
I think random access memory. It better be. RAM memory. Random access memory. Yep. So RAM. That is RAM. So the cool part is that's what's up next. Is we're talking about random and sequential memory stores. So the beauty of this is why it makes it so fast. And then we're going to talk about where we came from and where we are today. So let's go ahead and talk about sequential versus random access memory. So sequential access is you have to go in order, right? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you want to get to 8 and you're at 1, you have to skip through or fast forward past all those others to get to 8. Mm-hmm. Random access, though, it's able to use up any available space on there, and it's very rapid, it's very volatile, and that's random access. And I thought this picture really just defined that extremely well, right? You can utilize any of that memory. It's more expensive, but it's faster, and it's more volatile. Whereas sequential access, you have very standard read writes in a sequential order. So, Brandon, give me an example of a sequential access memory device.
Good question. Actually, I don't know.
I'm stumping you all kinds today. I love it.
You are. That's awesome.
All right, here we go. Sequential. All right. Can anybody else? Let me ask you guys. Sean, Vivek. Let's see who else is still with us. I'm sure we bored some people out of here. We had to. But if you're still awake, give us a little clap. And give
a tape drive.
Oh, come on! You're not supposed to answer that before they did. All right, you're right.
You did ask me. And one of the things I'm actually thinking is, remember the VIC-20s, Commodore 64s?
Yep.
Did you ever have one?
I never had one. Nope.
You had to have a tape like this that you actually inserted, and it actually run like the applications from a tape drive.
Okay, so you're skipping ahead in the presentation a little bit, my man. But yeah, so all right, so William is still with us. Sean said tape. Yep, he's way ahead of the game. So this is a cassette tape, right? It's sequential access. If you want to get to the end of that tape, you remember hitting fast forward on those?
Oh my God, they're so loud.
Oh my goodness. So that's an example, but let me talk about that in more of a computing space, right? Because that was for music. That wasn't as much, but it was still magnetic tape. Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about magnetic tape in early computing. Here's what it actually looked like. These were magnetic tape machines.
Right.
This was storage. So those are big storage tapes hooked up into those, and that's how they used to store things on magnets. Now, Brandon, do you know if they still do that today?
Far as I know, I mean, the only time I heard about this was IBM, right? IBM and their big server rooms, right? And all they had, like.
Yep, I think that's probably a picture from IBM.
That could be, but that was like, and that was when I heard about that was probably early 80s. Okay. Right, when I heard about the big server rooms, you went in and all these computers and things like that, and it was like so loud to get in there. It was, and you saw like things like this, right? Yeah, you did. Now, these guys it's blast from the past, right? Yeah. All right, but what if I told you that magnetic tape was still in use? Can I show you a picture? Yeah, let's do it. Check this out. This is I think Fujitsu film, something like that. But tape is alive and well, a uniquely powerful data storage solution for big data. So check this out. Believe it or not, they have still been improving the quality of magnetic tape storage all this time. Now, granted, I don't know how much it's being used today in today's day and age like this, but there was a story on here from 2011 where an organization's email servers went down. Okay. All the data gone. They had magnetic tape backups. Boom, restored like that. So it's actually a very cheap, very effective, long-term storage solution still. Wow. If anyone knows a company that's still using it, let us know. I'd love to know. Yeah, so I thought that was really interesting. Once again, does it take up a ton of space? I am sure. Do you need a special robot to figure out which tape was which? Probably. But who knows? Well, yeah. And here's a question I have, because I mean, as we know, the drives now, you got a hot swappable. Like, how does that work with tape drives now? You got me. I don't know.
No,
Sean's saying I have an LTO taped library in use.
no kidding. Sean, you're going to have to share a picture of that. That's really cool. Let me see if I can. Do you have if you could share a link of what it kind of looks like in the chat, Sean, I would love to throw it up on the screen for us. So if you could find a link, even if it's just from Google, and be like, hey, this is kind of like what I have, I'd love to check it out. So please do.
Yeah, same here.
Cool. But let's talk about some storage media security, because that's what it's going to come back to on the exam, right? So we've talked about the security problems that surround primary storage devices in the previous section. There's three main concerns. All of them are concerns raised for primary storage devices. Remind me what primary is again?
RAM.
There we go. So
what secondary?
There we go. Hard drives or sequential storage.
There you go.
Cool. So here we go. So one of the issues is data remnants. Based on this, if this was a question and you had to give me a quick example of what data remnants is, what would you choose, Brandon? What would you say? One sentence, ready to go.
Data remnants?
Mhm.
I'm just kind of thinking about it here. Like it's remnants on the disk, right? I'm just reading over this right now, but yeah, it's just what's left on the disk.
So
right? When we're just looking at what's that?
So if you sanitize your disk
and what's left of
data remnants, you can still pull stuff off that disk, right? Yeah, you're trying to read it on me. I see you.
I was quickly looking because data remnants. And what I was wondering is that are they talking about after you've actually degauzed it and you did that and you're able to pull from it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because right? I mean, some of the times, like I know for me, and I don't know if you guys do this, I was Iron Mountain, and I was looking at kind of how they were cleaning drives, and they were destroying them. They were taking through a shredder to shred them, just because they were saying like you could pull from them. Like Seagate, they actually have a program where you can actually send your hard drive in, and they'll recover it.
Yeah, they will. And to be honest, I have some forensic stuff on my computer. I could probably get close as well. All right, so real quick, Sean said a Dell PowerVault TL4000. So Dell PowerVault TL4000. I want to see this. Check out this bad boy. So here is a Dell PowerVault TL4000. Let me share the screen real quick. Pull this off. Sorry, it takes a little to get there. All right. So this is a Dell PowerVault TL4000. That is what you're looking at.
Wow.
Now, how much storage is in that thing? So it's got 48 slot tape drive. How much can you store in that? I'd love to know.
Sean put that out there. 38 terabytes.
Get out of town.
There you go. 4 units, 4 LT04 drives, 48 slots, roughly 38 terabytes.
That's incredible. That is too cool. Sean, thank you so much for the share, honestly. And I'm sure the storage is way cheaper than getting a NAS with SSDs, right? That is awesome. So I learned something new today.
Vivek,
that tape is alive and well.
There you go, right? People are still using it.
That's it. Yeah, so back to, and hold on, I think we had a comment real quick. Oh, that's interesting, Emmanuel. So he's saying it's still in use with SCADA, which is really interesting. I'm going to have to dig in. And once again, so I'm not much of a SCADA guy. But yeah, I'm going to have to dig into that further. And then Vivek has thrown a compliment Sean way. Sean is CISO of Navy, LOL.
That's awesome.
Very cool. All right, but let's talk data sanitization for real, right? Yep. So, and I know we're running short on time, so we'll try to rip through some of this stuff. But SSDs or solid state drives, they present a unique problem in relation to sanitization, right? Mm-hmm. Because you could overwrite an SSD, but there are blocks of data that are still not marked as live, right? So it wouldn't be actively written over. And that means a copy of that data can still be copied off to lower blocks and still be present on the drive. This means that your traditional, zero wipe, it's not as effective on SSDs.
So then how would you wipe it?
Shred it. Fire. Lots of fire. Just kidding.
What was it? Mr. Robot? That's what he did, right?
Yep.
The drill?
Yep. Bleach. I think politicians use bleach, right?
Do they? Do they really? I thought that was only for COVID.
No. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Well played, my friend. All right. So let's talk about other means of storage media storage security concerns. The other one is secondary storage theft, right? When we talk about data leaving secure locations, who was it? Somebody walked out of NSA with a bunch of data on a Lady Gaga CD.
Really?
I think they caught her, or
Okay.
him or her. I don't know. But yeah, so that was one of the incidents, right? They copied it to a Lady Gaga CD and they walked out the door. This is one of the reasons you should use full disk encryption, right? Well, this is a little different. She copied it to a CD, so obviously it's not encrypted. But if somebody tried to yank or yoink a SSD out of your device and walk and plug it into another computer, if you have full drive encryption, you don't have to worry about it, right? Because that comes back to your TPM. It's unless they're going to yoink your whole computer, which they're probably not going to do. They'd look silly walking out the door with that. Yeah, full drive encryption it is.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right. So how we doing? Do you want to cover that real quick? What is that? Access to data stored on.
Yeah, on a second storage device, one of the most critical issues facing computer security professionals for hard disk data can often be protected through a combination of operating system access controls. Removing media pose a greater challenges, so securing them often requires encryption technologies, and just like what you're talking about.
Yeah. So real quick. Yeah. So Sean, you're spot on. He says the only solution for SSD was destruction. Yeah, you can't degauss them because they're not magnetic, right? It's not a magnetic disk. What does Sean say? He says he does disk to disk and disk to tape backups. That's really cool. So they're basically going from disk to tape for kind of your long-term storage, right? So I wonder if in Amazon data centers, what they use for their Amazon Glacier. I'm curious if it's a tape backup. I'm going to have to check. I don't know if that's a scalable, repeatable process, but it'd be interesting to find out. And then Vivek said, absolutely yes, but there's a question on the test if it is being reused.
Right.
I'm curious as to what do you mean by reused?
If the hard drive's being reused, you're not going to shred it, right? If you're actually going to put it into another system or backups, I think that's what he's referring to.
Yeah, so I know for the federal government, if it's an SSD, they destroy it. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts. I even think magnetic tapes, like, they don't even play games anymore. They just shred it. If you're going to reuse it, remember, when you pull that storage device out of a device, that is at the same level of security as the system itself. So you can't go reuse that in a lower class system. That device would have to be at the lower class system already to be reused.
Right.
Cool. All right, so let's talk real quick. Input and output devices. Guys, I'm telling you that some of the stuff in here, it's a little older. But has anybody heard of Tempest? And I'll put this in the chat real quick. And I actually know what I don't think. Yeah, it only sends to. Can you type Tempest? Oh, I got it right here.
Got it.
Tempest. So Tempest was a way where you could, even after a monitor was turned off, you could actually detect what was on the screen.
Right.
And generally, it was cathode ray tube monitors that had this problem. And you guys may have seen this in older TVs, right, where they get burn-in.
Mm-hmm.
Similar thing where the display will actually still radiate, and you could see what's on the display. So real quick, for those of you who don't remember what a cathode ray tube display looks like, let me jog your memory real quick.
That's awesome.
That is a cathode ray monitor. And if one of you guys still have that, I want a picture of your workstation because that is OG.
So now here's a thing that I would think that people want to know as well. Tempest is a technology that allows the electronic emanation that every monitor produces, known as Van Eck radiation. So some of you guys should know just in case it's coming up on the test.
Yep. And then the process of getting it is Van Eck freaking, right? So you're basically able to get that information from another location. So if you're driving by, right, you could do it in a van. But one of the interesting things is, in order to protect from this, so Vivek is right, EM radiation shielding. But do you know what you need in order to do that radiation shielding, Vivek? A lot of copper. Lots and lots of copper. And copper's not cheap. I'm not sure if you guys are watching the copper indexes right now in the stock market, but copper's like, whoop. So it takes a lot of copper. It's expensive to implement. You're basically building a Faraday cage around your building. Not exactly the best use of resources. I don't know. It depends on your implementation. But it's interesting because we worry so much about stuff like this, which is, you you would still have to have your monitor turned towards a window,
Right.
but we're not as worried about the guy looking over your shoulder right behind you.
Right. So shoulder surfing.
Shoulder surfing, right? That's still the biggest threat when it comes to monitors. Shoulder surfing. Somebody looking over your shoulder. All right, let's talk about printers. I'm going to kick this one over to you, Brandon, because I didn't have a graphic for it.
Not a problem. Printers also may represent a security risk, but a simple one. Depending on the physical security controls used at an organization, it may be much easier to walk out with the sensitive information in printers. Form that in a walkout with a flash drive or magnetic media. If printers are shared, users may forget to retrieve their sensitive printouts, leaving them vulnerable to prying eyes. Many modern printers also store data locally, often on a hard drive, and some retain copies of printouts indefinitely. So, something to know of. I heard a story where someone was doing their estate information, and they had all their financial information stored on the actual hard drive. So someone could come in and punch in a code and reprint it. So, like, this stuff is real.
Wait, it was on the printer still?
It was on the hard drive in the printer.
Yeah.
So it was stored in the hard drive, so you can go back and reprint it if you needed to. So as you print the job there, it's stored locally, and you punch in the code and reprint. You could print all the last jobs, or you can pick the jobs that were done, and then you can reprint it. So
you're telling me you don't have? Do you have full disk encryption on your printer too?
For me,
nobody does. I don't even think they make full disk encryption for printers.
Well, it's clearing the cache and clearing the hard drive, right? You got to make sure that you have a policy in place that you're clearing that, because someone can come by and just reprint.
Yeah, and then he says shred sensitive documents. I'm telling you, we were doing physical pen tests, and you would be amazed the documents people just leave on their desks. Like, it's not even just the printer. They basically take it off the printer, put it on their desk, lock their drawer, walk out for the day. And like, I'll take care of it tomorrow.
Right.
Social security numbers, details about software. It's unreal. Yep. Shred the documents, lock it away, make sure it's secure. All right. I'm up, and I like this because we're talking about keyboards and mice. Now, one of the things that I actually see frequently in malware these days are keyloggers.
Okay.
But I thought I'd bring a little blast from the past and talk about hardware keyloggers. So here it is, guys. The KeyGhost SX. And this KeyGhost, it's got a new compact design, huge 2 million keystroke capacity, and it can store and retrieve approximately 12 months worth of typing. Patent pending. All yours for, I think, $89, $99? $199 for 2 megabyte flash memory. Guys, you got to remember, text does not take up much memory. So this was a blast from the past. Obviously, there's much better products and ways to do this than actually plugging the keyboard in to a device and then plugging that into a computer. Most keyloggers are just software based these days.
Right.
But I thought this was interesting, right? And I think there was even a Mr. Robot episode where they used a physical keylogger.
Yeah, wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah. So good stuff. All right. Last one, modems. Does anybody have a modem in their house? I'd love to hear it. Like a default modem. I want to know. You got the Comcast modem that they gave you 10 years ago. Do you have it in your house?
Me, I have a Bell one, yeah, but I have a modem, but I don't have the default one. I don't have a backup.
Okay. Have you ever heard of Cable Haunt?
No.
Oh, good. I'm so excited to share. So this was back in end of 2019, beginning of 2020.
Okay.
And Cable Haunt, there was a few Danish security researchers who disclosed a security flaw in cable modems using Broadcom chips. Basically, the vulnerability, codenamed Cable Haunt, it was basically two vulnerabilities, but it impacted 200 million cable modems in Europe alone.
Okay.
They actually have no idea how many devices worldwide it affected, but it was a lot. Okay. They couldn't even put a number on it. It was so many. So what does it do? Well, let's walk through this real quick. So Cable Haunt, and remember, guys, this was just last year, right? Cable modems. Cable Haunt is capable of, if you can trick somebody to click a link. Brandon, have you ever seen how easy it is to get somebody to click a link?
Yes.
Have you ever done a phishing test on a yeah.
I've been part of phishing tests, and yeah, I've seen them. Yeah, and the level of compromise at executive levels down is just, it's phenomenal what we see.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So I've had the pleasure of working with some incredible pen testers in my day, and one of them literally will rebuild a login page from scratch with just the JavaScript that's present on any web browser. He'll rebuild the whole thing, dynamically build in the code required to make every little button function exactly how it would in your browser, and then he'll phish you with it. But we're not phishing all the users. We're phishing only the IT administrators or the administrators on the network. And we get clicks. You would not believe it. Oh, click after click. It's always a good time. So if they can get you to click a malicious and just go to a malicious page in your web browser, Cable Haunt can change your default DNS server, conduct remote man-in-the-middle attacks using your modem, hot swap code or the entire firmware, upload flash, upgrade firmware silently, disable your firmware upgrade. So let's talk about it. You have a vulnerable device. They get in here, they disable the firmware upgrade. So if they push a patch, Brandon, you're not
getting it.
Not getting it.
SolarWinds all over again.
Oh, there we go. Right. I mean, but so not quite, because they're blocking it, right? They're blocking the update. So that would have been interesting if they would have gotten in there and disabled all the SolarWinds updates from pulling. It's clever. Don't tell them that though. Don't tell Russia. Okay.
Right.
They can also exploit you to be in a botnet, right? Change your serial numbers, MAC addresses, the whole nine. Change every config file and settings. It's bad stuff. And this was all last year. So that's modems. The recommendation is don't use modems in your organization at all, right? Have a security appliance handling your routing for you. Please don't use modems.
Okay, so now let me tell you a little bit blast from the past.
Hit me.
I used to work as a Bell Sympatical installer.
Did you really?
I did.
That's terrifying.
It is. Well, it was interesting. So I'm going to tell you guys now. They fixed it, but what happened was any modem that was installed in a user's house, if you reboot it, the password was a min. So it'd reset and you'd have full access to their network. So it'd reboot, start up their network, get connected to their network, and their default admin password would be admin that you couldn't change.
And remember your security circles, right? Your security zones. Like we're talking about getting like firmware level access.
So
admin hard coded into the reset process. That's terrible.
So one of the attacks that I was hearing about what people were doing when they were war driving, they'd overload the modem. So the modem would reset, and then all of a sudden it'd go back to admin, and then boom, you can get in remotely.
Boom. And I think Vivek said it the best. Default passwords, the crux of the problems. Well, Brandon, that was the wrap of episode 23 with Brandon Krieger, Joel Bork, and Vivek Varadarajan. I hope I said that right. But thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for digging into this with us. We appreciate your time. Brandon, hit us with some closing thoughts.
Guys, just keep studying. I know we got January 2021. I'd love to hear when you guys are going to write your exam, when you guys are going to do it. I love that all the guys are coming out here that are CISSPs, right, and help to kind of give some insight and share their experience. Let's keep this going. I mean, we're gonna kill it. We're gonna crush it this year, and I want to see all you guys that are here to help us out excel in your career for 2021.
Yeah, thank you guys. We're here for you. Thank you guys once again. Have a great rest of your evening. Thanks for sticking it out with us. See you guys soon.